afternoon. It is Thursday, July 28th, 2022. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Harlan Municipal Utilities Board of Trustees to order. Start out with an approval of the agenda.
So moved. A second.
Roll call.
Shelton, aye.
Terrell, aye.
Reese, aye.
You guys would say.
Just, yeah.
Pass back and forth. So, next we'll look for an approval of the consent agenda, which includes the minutes of the July 14th meeting, abstract of claims number 1217 in the amount of $774,326, and the upcoming board meetings, August 11th will be an electronic meeting, and August 25th, a regular board meeting.
I move. Second.
Roll call.
Shelton, aye.
Terrell, aye.
Reese, aye.
Item number 4 is the annual router software 3-year support agreement in the amount of $4,181 each year with CCI.
Yeah, basically, I think that's just a normal number. I mean, how much has changed?
3-year.
Yeah, annual 3-year.
Yeah, I believe this is discussed during the Finance Committee, correct? Is this the same subject or no?
No, that was something different there, Jim, as far as.
Okay. It's budgeted?
Yeah, that's in there, talking.
Okay.
Yeah. Move to approve the 3-year agreement.
I second.
Roll call.
Shelton, aye.
Terrell, aye.
Reese, aye.
All right. Item number 5 is the update to the drug testing policy.
Yeah, basically, that's just general policy number 85, the HMU drug and alcohol testing policy. Just an additional sentence was added that Jenny's got highlighted there as far as responsibilities. I don't know if you got anything to add on that, Jenny?
It's basically when the Iowa Utility Board comes in and inspects our gas department. They also inspect our drug testing policy, and they will sit down with Colbert and I, and they make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do, and that it's not just a book sitting on your shelf. And this was just one of the things that we knew we needed to be aware of, but it just wasn't written down. Basically, like when the comm center answered our phones, we're still responsible for making sure they follow all the guidelines and that they have their own policy and stuff like that. So anybody that we would hire, we're still responsible for anything that they do.
Okay.
So they just wanted it to be added.
Yeah, so my question is about the word agents. So I've seen it where it's employees, but agents and service agents, how far afield does the responsibility go? In other words, are we assuming responsibility and then thus liability for agents and service agents, which are people that are not employees of Harlan Municipal Utilities?
Correct, we would be. Like when the comm center answered our phones, we were responsible to make sure that they followed all the guidelines and had their own policies. If we have a contractor that comes in and works on the pipeline, we're responsible to make sure that they are following all the policies and that they have their own. And it's really not negotiable. We can't say that we won't have that responsibility.
Yeah, so I think I'm not going to run down a rabbit hole, but I think is responsible for the actions of officials, I got it, representatives, agents. We're not responsible for the actions of a contractor. We are responsible that they are in compliance or they have a drug policy in place. We are not responsible for their actions. If somebody comes in and they are running a backhoe and they're under the influence of something or they violated a drug policy, that responsibility does not, but that's how it reads here, does not shift to Harlan Municipal Utilities. Or shouldn't.
Yeah,
Is that the wording
that's
from
the way
Ryan?
you wanted us to use, and that's the way we've always understood it. Like if they're doing work for us and we notice, we observe, we need to make sure that they follow, and if they don't pull them off the job, we pull them off the job.
So HMU is responsible for the enforcement of all actions of its officials.
Yeah, we would need to be, if the company is not going to, then we have to.
Right. Enforcement, not responsibility for liability. Responsibility is a broad term. It means you're responsible for the actions, which segues into you're now liable for the actions of that individual.
And the wording then came from IAMU?
That came directly from their write-up that they sent us. That they've given to all the utilities.
Any thoughts, Matt?
I don't know what else you can do. You can make sure that if you engage with a company that they have a policy.
I mean, that's basically what this is saying is that they are going to follow the same rules that we do. But ultimately, we are responsible. I mean, it's our gas line, it's our system, it's whatever we've hired them to work on, it's our system. And if there's a problem that occurs as a result of it, it is our responsibility. And
And luckily, we just don't,
I mean, you can't just hire somebody and say, well, they told us they have the policy and lose your responsibility to it. If the gas line has a problem, it's our problem. So I don't know how we would ever give up that liability or responsibility.
And
Well,
we
if you
have,
if you have a written contract.
Yeah, you sign it through the contract.
Yeah, and in fact, I reviewed one this week that you made me vote on the COI. You know, they basically, the first page, they said, you know, we're not liable for anything. You know, on the third page, it said, well, you know, we would be liable for negligence of work. So I had them change that. Right?
and we don't, luckily, we don't
That's
have
why I
anybody that
reviewed
works on our
this, so we can make sure
pipeline
that-
anyway. We do all of our own work
Right.
on the pipeline, so we don't.
They're liable
at
for
this point.
negligence, which would fall under a very broad category of, you know, beyond drug testing.
I don't have a problem with it, but
Yeah, and this requires a board vote? I make a motion then that we approve the change and bring it in compliance with state recommendations.
It's an awkward tie here. I think it needs to be, HMU is responsible for the adherence of all actions or of its officials, representatives, and agents, including serving in carrying out the requirements of the DOT agency regulations. I don't think HMU is responsible for the actions of.
well, I'm certainly not the lawyer in the room, so I don't know what to tell you about that.
Well, I suppose that, you know, just what I said would be what I'm referring to. Any contract or agreement for an outside company to do work would, you know, their negligence, first of all, their insurance would be, this is required in almost everything that we do. Maybe a copy of their drug policy, but you know, it's going to need to say that any negligence on their part, they are liable. Does that answer the question?
I don't know. We're in a situation here where IMU has requested us to have this wording.
Not IAMU, the Iowa Utility Board.
Iowa Utility Board has
Not IAMU.
requested us to
Then I
have
misspoke,
this.
yeah.
And if we need to clarify further with them, then maybe we need to do that, but I don't feel that we're unified here. Would you say that's fair, Jim?
Yeah, I think we're placing ourselves at risk unnecessarily with the verbiage in this last sentence. It states that HMU is responsible for all actions of all. We may be responsible for the pipeline, we may be responsible for the project, but we shouldn't be responsible for the actions of every single person, contractor. That's the employer's responsibility. You may have the authority to stop their work, but you can't, you know, your authority doesn't extend much beyond that. So I say we get clarification before we place ourselves at risk, because all it takes is one person intoxicated, operating a piece of equipment or machinery, they end up doing injury to themselves or to somebody else, and now the utility is responsible for all litigation that comes out of that.
So you will help us write up our response
Yeah,
to the utility board?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we will table that until we get clarification. Item number 6, discussion on how to handle damages and claims of others' property, example, sewer claims.
Yes, on that, currently, I guess we're working with the city, and I think we kind of got a system set up, working with Gene as far as if there's damage to any city sewer mains caused by any directional boring, when a lot of the telecommunication, so forth, went in. Currently, we just, if we find out damage to the line was caused by directional boring, we're notified. We go out and take pictures and inspect the damage. And then the contractor then, we find out it was one of our contractors, one of the projects. The contractor that does the repair will invoice the city, and then the city sends that invoice to us. And then Jenny's been in contact with two of the contractors, I guess, that did a lot of the work.
Yeah, though you're talking about specifically with the city, but we use the same process if it's customers too.
Yes, and the same thing with the customers too. If we get a private service line, we kind of go through that same process of getting an invoice from the contractor, and then we run it through the HMU contractor's insurance. And I guess the one question is, we do have one claim. I mean, I think everything else is working through the process, but we do have one claim that was older than 10 years old, where it was on a private line. It was old enough we didn't know who the contractor was that had done the work, correct? And then, so we tried billing it through our insurance. They denied it just because of the length of time. So now we're sitting at, I guess we are wanting some direction, I guess, from the board. How do we handle these that we cannot go back and,
Is there not how in the world did we have a 10-year-old claim come back?
Statute of limitation.
Well, this one,
Yeah.
this specific one is over 25 years old.
yeah, it was like 90s.
Jim looked back in records, he thought it was probably between 95 and 97. He wasn't here yet, we don't have any records of who the contractor was. So we turned it into EMC, and EMC says due to the statute of limitations,
Right.
you guys aren't liable for that anymore. So they denied it, so they
Okay.
won't pay it. So our only action is, if we pay it out of, on this one particular, do we pay it out of our general funds? Or what do you guys want us to do? It's $6,013.58.
After 25 years, I would think the statute of limitations would be such that,
It's damaged property,
okay,
correct?
It's a damaged sewer line.
That's 5 years statute of limitations.
well, I don't think we can pay that at all. In 25 years, there's no precedent in which we would.
There's also,
I mean, because they have pictures, and it was our lines that
line.
went through their sewer.
well, they also have a situation where it's a common law type of thing that it's called latches. And it prevents somebody from sitting on their claim for an extended period of time and then coming back and surprise, you owe this. So you can't just know there's a problem and then just not deal with it and ignore it for that long a time.
Well, and I don't think they knew there was a problem. Their sewer got backed up and wasn't working any longer.
So yeah, so then they investigated and found out it was one of our lines that went through the service.
Well, what would they know that before, I guess? Maybe it's not a technical issue.
Why wouldn't they know that before?
Yeah.
Because nothing was backing up in their house.
Yeah, must not have had any issues, Matt, up to that point.
Okay.
I didn't ask them personally, but I'm assuming that their sewer started backing up in their house, so then they called a plumber. The plumber came out, and as they dug and everything, then they took the pictures and found that it was our line that went through there.
I guess common sense would say, yeah, you'd think they would have had a problem up to then, but I don't know how we prove that.
And there would have been
That
different
didn't
people
cause
that
it.
lived at that residence for the last 25 years too. Maybe the other people never
Well,
used their toilet. I don't
Well,
know.
yeah, maybe the usage went up after a while, and then they started having problems after the usage.
So they weren't the owners at the time, they bought the house from when it was already property.
I did not look at that.
If that's the case, I think that it's.
I don't know how long they lived there, I just know that
I
they
think
turned
it's
it in.
their responsibility to have a home inspection or, you know,
What is the service life of a sewer line? Is it expected to last forever and ever, amen, or does it have an actual lifespan?
I mean, depending on what it is, but I'm sure the city's probably got lines that are 75, 100 years old, probably.
Based upon material, original old clay tile lines, which are a lot of the old city mains. Over time, a lot of those are being either lined or replaced. So the longevity of the new lines is much greater. A lot of old private lines, again, depending on the address and the age of infrastructure on the private side, they could fail even without a boring going through it, just with decay or tree roots or the number of openings or splices where tree roots can get in, common thing, clogged sewers, right? So it's not, I would think it's pretty strange that something shows up after 22 years, but I would say it's possible, for however many years it was. So the board through 25 years ago, and things have been flowing fine. And again, due to usage and new family moves in, it's out of sight, out of mind. So it's somewhere between leaving the house and connecting to the city main, which is still a private line. That's, I'm sure, where the issue is, right?
Correct.
So, in the typical home inspection is going to inspect the line from the house out to the sewer main.
And this one was inspected after it was fixed. It has on the billing, so.
Yes, it really gets down to what authority we have to pay this. So, if it's by statute, we're not, required or authorized to pay, then is it out of benevolence that we're paying this, or choosing to bring this forward and go back 25 years to make a correction? I mean, because we don't have a requirement to pay it. So,
I mean, not that I'm aware of, I should say. I can't be positive that there is one, but I think you're right. It's, they can perhaps, well, they can take action.
Under roadways, I can see it, but
Since it's our line.
Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to pay it.
and we're sure that it was an HMU. I mean, the other question is,
Yeah, our guys went out and checked.
Okay, it is.
Our employees are the ones that took the pictures of the line and said
Okay.
it was our fiber that went through the sewer line.
No,
No?
cable TV
Oh, our
and
cable
electric.
TV.
When the cable TV was put in back in
That's why it was so long ago, sorry.
1997 with an electric conduit both together. I went out and took pictures of it.
And that's part of the inspection too, Randy.
So that's why
On
it's
these
so deep.
newer ones, I mean, we go out and see, make sure it isn't FMCTC
Yeah.
or somebody else, MediaCom that might have been. I mean, we do verify that it's
Okay.
our line or not.
so it wasn't, so it ran fine for 25 years with this incursion. So was there something else that caused the damage, and then we just defaulted to this as, I can't get coverage for a tree root incurring, coming into my clay drain, but I can get this really unaffected thing that took place 25 years ago that didn't actually plug my drain, but I'm going to use that to seek reimbursement for my out-of-pocket expenses for. And besides, I think there are, most homeowners have insurance that would probably cover that.
I'm certainly not comfortable with accusing any of our customers of trying to circumvent the system. What I am concerned with is whether we have the authority to just approve of an expenditure on something that's way past the statute of limitations. And
Well, you were told by the insurance company.
that it's way past the statute of limitations. I don't know what authority we have to take money and just pay somebody for something that's way, I don't know that we do have that authority. So if we do, I'd be curious to know how, because we're not in the business of just giving away money. So,
If you'd like me to research it to a certain extent, I can try, but I don't really know where to necessarily begin besides case law.
Oh, and I can send you the statute that he sent, our insurance guy sent the statute of repose.
That'd be fine.
And
If you want me to review
basically,
that.
he
if you could give us some guidance as to whether there's even because I don't want to approve an expenditure and then come back and say, well, you guys had no authority to approve that. At the same time, I don't want to get sued and lose either. If these people have a legitimate claim, we should pay it, but
No.
that many years past, I just can't see how they could.
Well, the statute of limitations is passed, but there's also some statute of limitations that apply upon discovery of the problem. You know?
Oh, and then it starts time starts running then?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'd like to see what the insurance company sent and maybe table this or, because I have not seen it.
Okay.
Because there's a difference, you know,
Yeah, right.
if you know about it, a personal injury, for instance, you're injured or whatever, sit on the sidewalk, you have 2 years to file a lawsuit. You know, that's just, or you're done, and you don't get anything. So that's kind of,
And this was just discovered in April.
right.
I mean, it was April.
you know, I'd like to see what the insurance company letter says, but that's up to you.
I'd like to clarify that before we make a, we don't have enough information on this to make a decision on it, I wouldn't think. Because, like I said, it's not our authority to just give away money. That at the same time, if we need to settle this, well, then we need to do what we need to do. But if the statute of limitations says no, forget it, then that's pretty much where we're at. I mean, there always has to be some point. If this was a 100-year-old, would we still be responsible for it? I mean, at what point does it become, I'm sorry, but we're past the service life, we're past our responsibility to it, and we can't cover it. And to me, 25 years seems like a long time, so.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to table that until we hear back from legal counsel. Item number 7 is approval to bid the maintenance project identified as a Avoca line ground line inspection and treatment project.
Yes, and I think there was some discussion on this previously, but that's our 69K line that runs from substation in our south well field down to Avoca, 12.8 miles. Basically, they're looking at going through, inspecting the poles, doing some treatment. Would like to have bids. If we get approval, P&E would send out bid packages to contractors, have bids back by August 17th, and then hopefully approve bids, form a contract at the August 25th board meeting. And they've got a completion date of June 1st of 2023, since even if we get it bid, probably isn't much work going to happen this fall.
And this is just primarily for the inspection of it, right?
Correct.
Not any replacement or anything like that?
Yeah, they'll find out what the replacement is, come back, and then we'll have a project, for replacement. And/or upgrades, I guess. I believe they had this estimated at about 27,000 is what they were estimating this portion or this phase to be for the inspection.
I move we approve the contract.
I second it.
And roll call.
Sheldon, aye.
Terrell, aye?
Reese, aye.
Okay, number 8 is discussion of billing errors and length of adjustments.
Yeah, this goes to either an undercharge or overcharge. According to code, under power, undercharge, overcharge, I guess all 3 utilities there list, power, gas, and water. We can go up to a not to exceed 5 years back if they were, under metered. We do have a situation in our water where we got 3 customers that were undercharged, I guess, so then we're trying to get some direction as far as how far back we think we should try to go back that 5 years according to the code or some other time, less. We wanted to kind of get the board's feeling on that. We haven't been in a situation before. I mean, there's been some past ones where I think the error occurred, maybe 2 years ago. I mean, so we were within that 5-year span. It's just that we've had this to where we haven't had it where it's exceeded 5 years.
Do we ever audit our bills?
That I'm going to have to refer just because.
Do we ever go back and do a sampling to make sure our billing is accurate? Or how do we end up at errors? It's not how do we end up at errors, how do we prevent errors? So do we sample our bills?
I mean, is this caused by the metering or?
It is, and it's, I don't know where to point it, the error was back from when it was installed, and there was nobody audited the water all these years until we just did. We audit the electric and the gas, the multipliers and that, but the water hadn't been done, and for what reason, why, I don't know. But it is getting done now. We've done it this year, and that's when we found the 3 errors.
Yeah, and that was both all 3 were on the multiplier, on those meters.
Yeah, so before we go and establish a policy on credit or, we should make sure we have something that says, hey, we audit to catch these errors, and then we can pick the time. How frequent do we audit?
Every year.
The entire, all the meters get audited every year?
All the multipliers on all the electrics, all the gases, all those get audited every year.
Well, if they're all supposed to be audited yearly, then I don't think we could go back 5 years then on somebody that if we had failed to do it in the last 4 out of the 5 years.
But the water had never been.
Have never been, yeah, that was the difference there, Randy, is the water hadn't been.
Is this residential or business?
Business.
And there's different circumstances. This is just one circumstance. There are other things that the meter shop doesn't do auditing on. Like if there might be a base charge that didn't get put on when it changed from one customer to another customer. There's different instances that happen all the time. And we do currently already have a policy, but there's no time frame on it. So that's why we're asking the board for a time frame. Because every time we have something that comes up, especially if it's something large, we never know how far we should go back. Most of the time we can trace it back 6 months or 3 months, or we can tell exactly when and these are just ones that have probably happened since we don't know when. So you can't go back 15 years or 20 years, but so we're wanting guidance from you guys if it should be 2, 3, 5.
So usually we do 2-year budgets, right? Or we try to hit 2-year budgets. If we get too far beyond that, we're really, so my suggestion would no farther than 2 years.
2 years.
I would say if we're going to be doing it for a year, on every other utility, I think then if we didn't, and just because we hadn't audited the meters on the water, then I think we ought to make it a year. I don't think we should go back on somebody more than a year.
Within a year.
Just because that's when we're checking it.
Yeah, and moving forward, I mean, we'll make sure we,
I was being lenient with 2, but I'm okay with a year.
As a business owner, I wouldn't want 5 years dropped in my lap for certain. 2 years, I wouldn't be happy, but I could live with it, but a year does seem more fair, especially if we're, establish an annual audit, that would be when it would be caught. I do think that's reasonable. It's unfortunate that we've been undercharging for something, but
get it corrected moving forward.
get it corrected moving forward, and I think a year is one that, a person could say, okay, yeah, I've been undercharged, but I can deal with the last year, but you go back much further than that and all kinds of, it gets spooky.
It is the flip side though too. If we had been overcharging them for the last 5.
They did get the product.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah, let's see what happens with the year, so. I moved to have
Go
the
back
billing
for 1 year.
adjustments changed to a year.
For both instances, overbilling or underbilling?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. And we'll put that in a motion in our minutes, but then we'll bring the actual policy back to you guys at the next meeting, so we have it on our books.
Okay.
The policy will say 1 year.
All right, I'm comfortable with that. Item 9 is the audit engagement letter with Gronwald Belkin.
Did we get a first and second on that?
Yeah,
I
let's
think I
put
interrupted,
this
I'm sorry.
officially.
Sorry.
So I moved to have that item number 8. put
And I'll
to the year.
second.
Okay, there you go.
surprise, surprise.
Yeah. Sheldon votes aye.
Terrell, aye.
Reese, aye.
Now, the audit engagement letter.
Yes, yearly HMU audit. Last correspondence I had was stated that they will be on site August 15th through the 17th for the audit. And I know Monty and Deb are working to try to get numbers together, by next week or the 8th for sure to the firm so they can review before they actually are on site.
Yes, I was confused. So we have 2 audits taking place, right? If this is just the annual, then we have another one that was initiated by a customer, sent up to, where is that audit?
I don't believe that's started yet. We just got that notification and the state
Hasn't given us a date, I guess, or
information what they're
Information.
going to want or anything yet. This is just our regular annual audit that we're not required to do, but we do.
Maybe we just package this up. Yeah, just, I would ask what, this is gonna, this costs us money?
Every year.
Yep. And we make sure we track the expenditures and resources required for the subsequent one as well.
okay.
We do that. We have job numbers that we can assign, and most of it will be Monty's work.
Okay.
So you need a
Acceptance.
resolution to
Yep.
accept this?
Second, please.
Second it,
Roll call.
Sheldon, aye.
Terrell, aye.
Reese, aye.
Okay. Item 10, the Itron maintenance renewal in the amount of $2,522 for November 1st of 2022 through October 31st of 2023.
Yes, this is a yearly renewal for the meter reading software. So, nothing out of the ordinary.
Similar in price to prior years.
Yeah, I believe so.
And this is all budgeted.
Yes.
Is it in front of us because it's above $2,500? Why are we?
Correct.
That's the reason. They made it by $22.
And Matt did not review the actual contract because it hasn't changed. It's one of those perpetual contracts that you just approve the payment every year.
Okay, I move to approve the renewal.
Second.
Roll call.
Sheldon, aye.
Terrell, aye.
Reese, aye.
Item 11, the annual GIS building in the amount of $15,000.
This is just our annual contribution to fund GIS. City and county also contribute to that. So, same as what we've done previous years.
I make a motion. Save it 15 again.
Okay, roll call.
Sheldon, aye.
Terrell, aye.
Reese, aye.
Item number 12, Northern Municipal Distributors Group, L&R Fund Assessment in the amount of $1,499.81.
This is for the funding to cover the litigation and regulatory work for our gas distributor group. Actually, less amount than previous years. So if they've got something litigation, then it's a split according to your thorough puts between the members. So that's just our portion.
And it's budgeted?
Yes.
So, I'm not gonna run down a rabbit hole, but why, if the board approves a budget and it's in the budget and it's below a threshold, why is it coming to the board for action?
Ken always wanted it on there. I would have to look back to see if we put it on there when Daryl was here and when.
I noticed
when
that
Tom was here.
Ken had that habit of putting things on here that were unnecessary, which frankly makes the board meeting muddled and unnecessary at times. I agree with Mr. Shelton that if it's below the threshold and we don't need action, I don't see the point in taking action. We should just leave that to Joe.
Okay.
That's why you have that threshold. If we
Yeah.
bring every expenditure to here, we'll be here until midnight, so.
All right.
So you guys don't want to see this unless there's like a new contract with the attorneys ever?
Correct.
If it's budgeted.
If it's budgeted and it's under the threshold and
threshold.
Joe says it's good to go, then it's good to go. If
Okay.
if you don't feel comfortable with something, you
Yeah.
want to bring it to the board, that's fine.
Fine.
But otherwise, things like this that are just a straight pass-through don't need to be in this.
Okay.
Since it's on here, do you want us to?
Since it does say board action
Okay.
required, we probably should, so we
Okay.
don't get any
I moved to
orders.
approve the $1,499.81 for the municipal
Second.
distributors.
Roll call?
Sheldon, aye.
Terrell, aye.
Reese, aye.
And item 13, the electric policy number 9, lease agreement for joint use of communications facility. Recommend no changes.
Yeah, this is just to be reviewed annually, $5,000 per month from telecommunications department to electrical department for rental of the fiber distribution network. And like I said, there's no change for this fiscal year, but it's supposed to be reviewed each year.
It's budgeted.
Yeah, same thing.
Same as it has been.
So same as the previous item then.
Yeah, I moved to approve electric policy number 9, lease agreement.
Second.
Roll call?
Sheldon, aye.
Terrell, aye.
Reese, aye.
No, that's all it is. 14, proposal for new phone system.
Yeah, this was discussion with Jim and Nella on July 7th Finance Committee meeting for a new phone system. So we got the price there for the phone system. In conjunction with that is a new server for the phone system, and then also additional hard drives. A portion of those hard drives will be used for the phone system, but also for electric SCADA, future water SCADA server, future security server, and our Mac server. Cost of the phone system, the server, and the hard drives will be split among the 6 utilities.
So with the current, at the time of the Finance Committee's meeting, each one of the utilities, through cost avoidances and budget, they had funding to cover these costs. So, and Jim had gone out and actually gone through a process to come in with several, or a couple of different bidders
Yeah.
to determine what was the best value, presented that to the Finance Committee, and that's what is appearing before the board today.
I know there was discussion as far as trying to get it, make it a budgeted item, but I know we have been having issues, especially with
Yeah, this
outages
was
and
brought to the
stuff.
telecom and
Yeah,
we
this-
didn't bring it. We said it wasn't budgeted and there was no long-range plan on it. That was one of the concerns.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, this has been a 10-year process, is that
Probably 15.
15-year?
Yeah, and this isn't administrative, it's the office building, it's
Yep.
not a telecom.
Yeah, only.
Yep.
And that's why the 6-way split for the cost.
okay.
Last time we were bidding a different product, is that true?
No,
this
it's still
is-
the Huntel system.
Yes, Mitel.
Or, yeah, Mike.
We got a quote from Cortec for.
Cortec also.
For a switch box. Joe and I did a Teams meeting with them face to face, and they were.
They were close in cost, Jim, right? I mean, there's
Well, they were-
a little bit more.
They were about 3,000 higher, and they had the $3,200 a year support fee, right?
Where this has got a 950.
Yeah, this is at 950, and then Joe, when we met with Mitel, he wanted to lock the rate for 3 years. So this 25 includes 3 years of assurance software support.
Yeah, so 3 competitors did the assessment, funding was found, and the other fact is that the current system is at its end of life expectancy. It's actually beyond its life expectancy. Is that accurate?
Every day we
Yep.
boot it, we're burping it every day.
Any other questions?
I was surprised to see this back on, but I wasn't part of the committee, so I'm not aware of all the different things that went into it, but last time we talked about it, we
Yeah.
we came to a different conclusion when we were looking at it from the telecom committee's point of view. So, if that's changed, then I guess we're...
Yeah, so the Finance Committee approached it from its charter, which was to make sure it had the requisite funding available to do what needed to be done, and took the acquisition steps to make sure that they obtained a competitive product to best represent the utility. Whether it's the right technology or whether it fits into the telecommunications strategy, telecommunications committee strategy.
And I guess on that note too, some of the issues we've been having, as far as like Jim's mentioned, having to reboot the system, even on power outages, weekends, on-calls got to come in maybe sometimes and actually reboot the system too, so then you got to call out. I guess it's just long range. We felt it was the correct thing to do is to try to get it replaced now. Like Jim said, end of life.
I think that was where we got into this in the beginning of it. We operate a lot of equipment that's past end of life. The question was, did it need to happen prior to the budget? Did it really need to be an unbudgeted, whether the funds are available or not, it was still an unbudgeted item that has been on the books for a lot of years, and it's a huge expense.
Yeah, and it should have been in the overall budget.
Right, at that
With the
point, we
plan.
felt like the plan should have been in the budget, and it should have waited for the budget. If that's not the case, it seems odd to me, but if the funding has been found and we're all satisfied that this is the time, the right place to do it and all that, I guess I can recognize it, but...
Yeah, it's
Jen?
not a deficiency. It's not a deficiency. In other words, it's not, the money came from cost avoidances, whether it was budgeted items that came in lower than expected or reimbursements that materialized. So it was not something that was unbudgeted and extra money was is being taken from somewhere else. This is coming organic from their existing
But
budget.
it's still $25,000 that
Yep.
is to replace a system that, even though it's got flaws, it is still working. Jen, you had a...
Yeah, one of the important discussion points in the finance meeting, I think, and if Nella was here, she could probably speak for it, she was the one that mentioned, is that now that's become more of a daily issue. We don't get our voicemails that customers leave us at night unless the guys go back and, as Jim calls it, burp the system. So every day they have to burp it before we even get any messages that come through. And then they have to, call customers back after the fact. Whenever we have an outage now, it happened again on Saturday, we had that electric outage. The phone system goes out. We can't get calls. They have to take them on the cell phone. And then we have to call the guys to come in and burp the system again so that it goes up and running. One of our concerns is customer safety right now. If they would get a gas leak and that's not working, we would be totally responsible for anything that would happen to that customer.
Yeah, so we're not buying a 15-year-old piece of technology today. There's what benefits or additions or technologies that come with this system that don't exist with the current system.
It's a complete VoIP, fully featured, hot desking. We can transfer from my desk phone to my cell phone as I'm walking out the door. It has the office features of, you can see who's on the phone, who's off the phone, if you're trying to talk to somebody. It's got three-way calling if you want to put another person on the line as you're talking with somebody else. It has full audio conferencing, audio-video conferencing for up to 300 attendees. Additionally, we're purchasing a conference phone for in here because, half a dozen times a year we might do a phone conference, in the boardroom, but it's a fully featured VoIP IP phone system.
And I guess on my point of view, looking in from the outside, just new, I thought the trouble we're starting to have, like Jenny said, every day, and especially with, power outages, so forth, I felt it was something that we did have to get the finance committee involved and try to take care of it ahead of budgeting.
And our own personal voicemails don't even work. I had 3 different instances where people called and said, I tried to leave you a voicemail and it just rang and then cut off. So they're waiting for information. One of them was our insurance guy from ENC, and it's like, I tried calling, but I can't even get through. There's nothing that even happens. It doesn't, sometimes it'll just ring and then cut off. Sometimes it just cuts off right away. And that's calling your direct line. That's not even going through the switchboard.
And I can discuss too, moving forward, I think, that's what I'm going to try to concentrate on is looking ahead. Kind of came to this point where, maybe we should add some money in the budget previous, but.
Yeah, that would have made this whole thing really easy, because that's usually our first question.
But we got to the point now just where, like I said, it's daily. I guess we made the decision that we got to move forward with it for the good of the, running the utility.
Just on the customer service aspect, it's
Correct.
not very good when customers can't get through, or if they don't get calls back.
I'll entertain a motion if you'd like to make it, Jim.
I move that the board approve all 3 specifications of the phone system purchase, the system, the server, and the hard drives.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Sheldon, aye.
Terrell, aye.
Reese, aye.
Item 15, banking documents.
Resolutions just to remove Ken from bank documents and add myself.
Where's the original
those that we're all signing. Do you have that? Or is this in here? Or-
You
No,
have a copy of what's going to be signed in your packet.
Yep.
It says Resolution 43, 2022, on the top right-hand side. Looks like this.
Okay, yep. So we're gonna sign that before we leave here today, is that the plan, if we
Joe
approve
will
it?
sign that one. You guys will sign the next one and the next one,
Okay,
the next two.
okay.
And those are actually required by the bank, so unless you don't want Joe to write any checks or approve any checks.
No, we do want him to do that. I
David,
just need a
you're
motion.
probably getting tired of approving every single.
yeah.
I move that resolutions 43, 2022, 44, 2022, and 45, 2022 be approved.
Second.
And roll call.
Sheldon, aye.
Terrell, aye.
Re-sign.
All right. Item number 16, 3 additional wells acidized and airburst in the amount of $61,795. This is non-budgeted. I'm assuming this is,
This, Chairman, is based off of the savings, I guess, on the budgeted item of the RO membranes. 250,000 was budgeted. Membrane's actual cost is $108,032. So that leaves us a surplus of $141,968 in that item. So then the talk was, this was at the Finance Committee, let's try to use that money towards additional water, you know.
this should help our,
Yes.
how did the last ones do?
Haven't had any done.
Haven't had any done.
No, we haven't had any done. We tried to do it before, but it wasn't feasible. And so now we've been in the new fiscal year where we're gonna start doing it.
Okay.
So on the same case too, yeah, there was 3 that were budgeted, so we're adding additional 3, so we're looking at doing 6 total.
Okay.
Yeah, this goes back to where we discussed at a previous meeting in which we were like, hey, we've got to find some money to help our water situation. That's what this really is. It gets us, so the funding is available. It also helps us get ahead of the
Yeah, the issue's gonna be, we can get more water, but still try and bring it through the same manifold pipe.
Yep.
The same server pipe, and that's limiting us there too.
Correct.
Yes, I know in the last, we do drawdowns every single month. And well production fell 36 gallons compared to June and 64 gallons compared to May. So since May, we've lost 64 additional gallons of production out of the well field, and because they need to have maintenance done on it.
Okay.
I move to have, so I know they're separate instances, but they were addressed collectively at the Finance Committee of 16, 17, and 18. Do you want us to do them separately? Or at least put in one motion?
Yeah, separately, they're listed separately on.
Okay. I move to have the item number 16, 3 additional wells acidized and airburst in the amount of $61,795.
Second.
Roll call.
Sheldon, aye.
Terrell, aye.
Re-sign.
And item 17 is clear well inspection and cleaning by Liquid Engineering Corporation in the amount of $9,135.
Yeah, and that goes back, I guess, to our same, is a budgeted item, so
Okay.
probably shouldn't have it on, next time around. But just, I guess, wanted to bring attention, budgeted 9,000 for that, so we're 135 over budget.
It's a contract over $2,500.
Yeah, so
Okay,
it still
so
has to
have
go.
to do it, yeah.
Yeah.
Make a motion to approve that contract for $9,135.
No, second the motion.
Roll call.
Sheldon, aye.
Terrell, aye.
Re-sign.
And item 18 is the clear well exterior cleaning and maintenance by utility service.
Budget amount of 49,000, so we came in under.
Nice. Rare, but nice.
Yes.
Make a motion, we approve the budget for Clearwell exterior cleaning.
Second that motion.
And roll call.
Sheldon, aye.
Terrell, aye.
Re-sign.
All right. Information only items. I'll let
Okay.
you have them.
Yeah. A McClure invoice for the 6875, that was time spent for expert witness on the water plant litigation. B, 22,460 is continuing engineering on the water supply project, engineering project. C, information on the city waiver received to use discharge water for the swimming pool. So that's approval to use the water plant discharge as a supplemental water for pool, to fill the pool after the initial fill. D, I guess that's just self-explanatory there as far as a return on that premium. E, received revised water permit in the new testing requirements. So there's about 4 different things we got to test for. I'll let Donald kind of talk about that.
We had some additional testing up in Crest Haven that we had to do for TTHMs and HA5s that we're going to have to do every single year. They're byproduct of the disinfecting process, monitored. Back in February, the DNR, in conjunction with the EPA, came in and we're sampling for PFAS chemicals in our source water and our well field. At that time, we didn't have any hits of the PFAS chemicals, but we had a hit on PFBS, which at that point in time didn't have any health effect advisories or standards. But now it does, as of June 15th. They put in some health advisories, but that was only a hit in a single well on the raw water side. And the sampling is occurring on the source water side, and we didn't have any hits of any compounds on our finished water. So they're just making sure that nothing's making its way from the well field through the treatment process into the finished water. So we'll have quarterly testing that's going to have to be done with that, and hopefully we will be able to get reduced monitoring after we don't have any hits.
F, we did receive 2 different payments from the city on the TIF, 80,000 and 30,000 for that total of the 110 for the work on the berm removal at Baumgars and Bucksnort area.
So was that in your, that wasn't in a budget, that wasn't budgeted, we weren't expecting that, I don't think.
We should have been expecting
Yeah.
that, yeah, it's really late coming, but we should have expected it.
But I know typically in that TIF, there's probably a 2-year delay, Gene, typically, by the time.
18 months,
Yeah.
2 years.
2 years.
Yet, so I can't speak on the HMU budget, yet the trigger as to why Ken and I first brought it to our attention was that the trigger was that we had received an invoice for that service, so if you can get set to pay even once we got the reimbursement. So that's why it's so delayed. I can't speak to how it was budgeted on your end.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and check that. I don't believe we had budgeted for that. Or I don't believe it was in our budget. So the only reason I bring that up is that it is, I'm not sure how it would be broken down, but it could be construed as excess funds.
We've spent the money, years ago.
Yeah,
Right.
and this was reimbursement for work that we did.
We
This is
had a
basically
contract
bill.
with the city that said we would reimburse that we would be reimbursed up to $110,000.
And we spent in excess of that.
Yeah.
HMU just didn't invoice them after that work was done, so.
But what fiscal year was that done?
I'd have to look back at the contract.
It's 3, 4,
How long's the Bucksnort been out there?
and Baumgars.
Probably 18, 20, yeah, your fiscal year 18, probably.
18 or 19.
I think I'd about.
Yeah, I think you wrote it off.
Oh.
That year.
That year, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. G, fiscal year end transfers. That was transfers in both the electric, water, and cable utilities. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we talked about that up above as far as the RO membrane replacement cost. Static mixers, this is another non-budgeted item, which we're utilizing that excess from the membrane item. So that covers 3 mixers that will be installed, 1 mixer in the filtered water main leaving the water plant, and 1 mixer ahead of each RO unit. And this should just help improve operation of the treatment plant.
So I would ask that the water department lay out what's been done to, I know we got the well field contract approved, what's being done to help our water situation? What investments are being made, what strategic planning is being done to set the conditions for future success or future sustained water availability for the residents of Harlan. Does that make sense? I guess I'm asking you that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it does. J is a spare 100-horse RO unit pump motor. Same thing, covered by the excess with the RO membranes. And then K is a dump trailer, that amount of $12,670. That was a budgeted amount, and we came in under budget by $1,500.
So I asked earlier, but what is the status on the, we raised a safety issue with the cable trailers, right? And where are they at in the procurement process?
We're waiting for one quote, which should be here any day. We've gotten 4 others.
Okay.
We're just waiting on this one quote, and then we will make the decision. You know, we brought it to you guys already, and it's a budgeted item.
Yep.
That way we can get them coming and get them delivered for the rest of the summer's work.
Yeah, at what point does the trailer become safety deadline? Or trailers become safety deadline?
15 years ago,
Yeah.
20 years ago.
Yeah, just forward looking.
I mean, it's good. We're not running a farm operation, no offense. We're running a utility professional organization, and if we have items that are not safe, we shouldn't be using them. We as the board should be authorizing you to go out and rent or lease or buy or whatever to avoid, injury or death. So.
And that was discussions I think we had, myself, Donald and Colburn, try to be more forward thinking, forward looking, what do we need down the road so we don't get into this situation. Any questions on those items, I guess?
Can I ask a question of the board? A lot of these items you guys are questioning why they're even on the agenda. Do you guys want to revise our contract policy to where, like right now, our policy says any contract under $2,500, CEO can approve on his own. So do you guys not want to see these if they're a budgeted item and over $2,500? Because anything over $2,500 still goes to legal counsel per policy. So if it's a contract that's over $2,500, but it was budgeted, do you guys want to see that or not then? Because we don't have to put this stuff on here if you guys don't want to.
I would
It's up
say
to you.
yes, what was discussed
It's how
earlier.
informed you guys want to be.
No, I think it's yes,
Yeah.
up to that $2,500 mark is the ones that were, if it's under that and it's budgeted, I don't think we need to see it.
Okay, if it's under $2,500 and it's, you guys don't need to see it anyway per policy. CEO can approve those, whether it's
Right,
budgeted or not.
and
if
that's
it's
the
under
ones that
25.
we're primarily concerned
Well,
with.
because these other ones you asked about, like the liquid engineering, That was a budgeted item, but it was $9,000, so you asked why it came to the board.
I didn't.
No, I was good with that. No,
Because it came to the board because it was over
Right, no,
2,500.
no,
but-
no,
We understand we're fine there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you still want to keep all
Yes.
that the same?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Moving on.
Okay, got quite a few items, so I'll try to move through quickly here, just so we don't waste a lot of time here. Had a meeting with McClure Engineering on Tuesday to discuss final items for the design and discuss project costs for the new well project. They got construction costs are now estimated at about $6.5 million. So we're looking at a 40-year USDA loan, 2% interest. That interest rate went up a little bit, but I think now we are locked in. We still don't have our letter of conditions, but they did assure, at least McClure assured us that we're locked in at that 2%, and hopefully we'll not see another increase in that interest rate. Working on easements related to an electrical feed to the city's wastewater treatment plant. That is part of this water project. It's Section 4 or Division 4. Sent to 2 of the landowners and attorneys reviewing. We do have a meeting set on August 18th with Essentia, because we do need an easement from them also for legal control of one of the new wells at the east well field. So we'll discuss that easement with them on the 18th, and then also kind of go over the progress of the project, the new project with them. John Burmeister with PFM is going to be stopping August 4th to discuss options for our water rate increase. We'll look at both what we need to do to increase our reserves in the water and then try to cover our bond costs.
Who's John Burmeister?
He's with PFM, what's it?
Public
Financial Management. So, and I think we've been using him for a lot of years, right?
At least 20.
Yeah. So he's just going to kind of help guide us through to help with that new water rate. See where we need to set those to make sure we're going to have everything covered. Need to be working on the RP3 application in August and September. That application's due September 30th. Jim's working with Oxen on scheduled replacement of computers. We'll be upgrading 8 computer stations. I guess, I don't know if you need to add anything.
At 9 now.
9?
We have a new water foreman.
Oh, yeah. So. Deb and Monty are working, I guess, in preparing information for that yearly audit here in August. And there have been some issues with lights on our signal receiving tower. I don't know if you've heard anything from the public. I think we've had issues for a while. The beacons were replaced on that tower in 2018, but we're thinking there's issues now with wiring to those beacons. FAA is aware of the issue, but Jim has contacted the tower company to try to get that figured out so we can get that thing lit back up again. I mean, we actually don't have any lights on it. It's been
Fire off the Christmas lights a little early, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I don't know if you had anything to add to that, Jim. I think you said cost, talked to Jim about cost would be covered under telecom's contingency fund as far as any work we need to do on the tower.
We just had some tower work done though.
That was last year, and they found some of the wiring blown out at the top.
Yeah, but I thought they'd done the repair on that beacon or the lights to bring it back in compliance that time.
Yeah, well, it's been hit or whatever. We've blown fuses in the control panel a couple times this year, so.
Yeah, and I had them down, they were probably down there 2-3 weeks ago, and kind of had it up and running for a while, but then now it's back to where I think there's only one beacon that. barely flashes.
The tower was put up in 1997. I think I'm getting a quote to rewire the tower.
So there's been a notice to airmen sent out?
Not that I'm aware of, and I follow the local NOTAMs pretty close, so I'm kind of surprised.
Yeah, I think the wiring, and before I came here, I guess they had a problem with lightning hitting that tower all the time. They had to go down and put some additional grounding around that site down there, and so.
Yeah, I think the important part is to confirm a NOTAM's been put out, or else we're, whether it's a medevac or whatever.
And I know you said you had contacted FAA, right?
Yeah, the warned airmen's out and.
I did that, okay.
Another item, we had that short power outage on Saturday night. I guess thanks to Jenny Colburn for working with the public on Facebook and taking calls. And then David, Stephen, and Jordan had pretty quick response as far as getting that power restored.
Was that at the west substation again?
It was actually between East Ford and Carmen Hosak's. One of our phases went to ground from that west wind that came, and it blew enough, and haven't seen it happen in 40 years, and it pushed that over into the ground, and thank God it went to that instead of another phase. So that's when it blinked it, so they just had to make sure everything was okay before they just re-energized. So we went back and rechecked on Monday and confirmed that everything was okay and safe.
Water department has been working on cleaning up some of the trees and weeds around the lagoons south of the city street department building there. So we're trying to get things cleaned up there, just presentable. I attended the 2022-23 Southwest Iowa Business Accelerator meeting at Hive 452, presented by Harlan Sorensen, Oak Road Consulting, on the 14th. And then we were, I don't know if you heard, we were awarded a 3-day Strat-Up training certificate.
Yeah, so we probably need to make sure, so I was not present, and I specifically wasn't present. This is a legal opinion.
Yeah, as far as
ethics opinion.
I'm sorry, explain it again.
Yeah, so Oak Road Consulting held an business accelerator in which HMU CEO attended and was given a certificate to have Oak Road do planning. I was not present, but we still need to go through the whole.
Okay, I wouldn't know anything about it.
Yeah, we'll bring it, I guess we.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to see as far as if that's
A conflict of interest.
A conflict
with me
of
as a
interest.
board member.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So if you could put that in an email to me and just explain the situation.
would do.
Or it was done in a drawing, correct? It wasn't.
Yeah, it was like a door prize type
Yep.
deal.
Yep.
Not everybody got it, but all the names were put in there, and
Mhm.
this business was chosen
Yeah.
as a random.
Yep.
What would be the conflict? I just want to know what the conflict is potentially.
Because I'm an employee of Oak Road Consulting.
Right, okay. If you just send me what happened and that information, then I'll make a
Okay.
judgment.
All right.
Since it was just offered to, it was not directly given to us, it wouldn't be considered a gift or anything, correct?
What if,
It was a conference and they won it per a drawing.
one what?
Won
It's,
this 3-day training.
yeah, it's a 3-day training.
I can't really.
Yeah, we owe you more information.
Yeah,
We'll do that.
But I can't really see much of a conflict for winning it. Door prize.
Okay. We'll get you more information. Okay. And then thank you to Michelle, Jenny, Leila, Patty, Jess, and then Jess's daughter Phoenix and Colburn for participating in the Shelby County Fair Parade. I think we had a lot of good comments, as far as through the parade route, it seemed like. Yeah.
if I could add a couple extras that were not on that list.
Oh, yeah.
Brian and Troy also did help us load stuff and move some stuff in and out of the trucks.
Yep, and then also
Yep.
had some other efforts as far as cleaning and, getting stuff cleaned up too ahead of that, get them washed up, so.
Paul washed the vehicles.
Yep.
and- Yep.
And then the last thing I have, we do have one July anniversary, and it's Stephen Gessert, 23 years. So. That is it. Any questions? Yes.
One more mention. Jonathan filmed the parade in Shelby County Fair, so it's airing on Channel 15. I'm not quite sure what dates he has scheduled. He does a very good production on those. So if you missed the parade or if you didn't have a chance to get down to the fair, check us out on Channel 15.
Good.
All right. Thank you, Joe. Item 21 is a possible closed session to discuss strategy with counsel and matters are presently in litigation or where litigation is imminent and where disclosure would be likely to prejudice or disadvantage the position of the government body in that litigation. Are we?
I think you do need to go.
Okay.
Information.
Okay.
So make a motion to go to closed session?
Yes.
Second.
Roll call.
Sheldon, aye.
Terrell, aye.
Recite.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. If you're not part of the closed session, we'll... All right, welcome back. We are back in our regular session. And item number 22 is the Prairie Fire Payment Agreement Settlement. Looking for a motion.
Yeah, Jenny, you want to read the proposed motion?
Yep, do we have a motion to accept the affidavit of confession of judgment upon receiving a signed affidavit back? And giving Matt, empowering him to dismiss without prejudice?
Upon receiving the first
The
payment.
signed affidavit back.
Yeah.
I motion for that as written.
Second.
Roll call.
Sheldon, aye.
Terrell, aye.
Recite.
All right. And that is everything for today. We are adjourned. Thank you. Thank you.